Welcome to episode 37 of An Earful Podcast. In this episode, we have RHYS WILCOX of the band Dream State.
We also talk about, obviously, Dream State, what we've been up to over the grueling 4 months. We've had live music and much more.
Yeah. Otherwise than that, it was a pretty good episode. I'm chuffed that we got RHYS on the podcast to talk about all things Dream State. If you haven't already, we have 36, that I say is correct. We have 36 previous episodes that you can go and watch on YouTube, or you can go and check it out on most popular podcasting platforms. You can also check us out on our social media at An Earful Podcast. I'll repeat that again because I'm a northerner. You can check that out at An Earful Podcast. Otherwise, enjoy the episode.
Should be in the bottom right anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Enjoy.
Enjoy.
Right. And we're recording.
There we go.
Thank you.
How's it going then?
I'll talk at the same time. That's professional.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Life is good.
How are you finding, not to jump onto the COVID situation straight away, but how's lockdown been?
Lockdown's been good. It's been a good time to kind of figure a lot of shit out personally, and also just like get better as a musician, like earn some money, just to do a lot of self-improvement. And so I'm feeling like mentally very good at the moment. I'm very like ready to hit the world when it's back open again.
It's back up and running.
And yeah, that's it in a nutshell, really.
Yeah, absolutely. You tend to find that though with this time that everyone, like especially musicians, they've had the kind of like the period of where they kind of like a self-reflectment and then work out where they want to go creatively, what they need to improve on, and then they're taking that time, which is such like a positive aspect of everything that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, I feel like it's a bit of a survival mechanism. Like you just have to adapt to the circumstances, and I think that a lot of people have struggled a lot to kind of get used to it. Hence, like people screaming to leave the house and like break COVID guidelines and shit and go down the beach and party when like there's still like loads of people getting infected. But like I think yeah, it's been a good time. Like I've spoken to a lot of people who've been like, do you know what? I actually really needed this like break from life to just figure myself out. And I feel like that's been me as well. So.
Yeah, there's some ways you can get a big positive out of it because like, you know what I mean? Some people are constantly working like 5 days a week, 9 to 5s, and like you need that break, don't you? Like I know you get book your holidays off, but I guess in a way it was kind of like a nice break for everyone for like, how many months has it been now? Like
4?
4 months.
Yeah, it's been about 4.
I mean, like, and some people are still on furlough. So, like I was saying on the last podcast, it's like having your like holidays back in school again. Do you know, it was on like school holidays.
It's like the massive summer holiday you have.
It's the big summer holiday again.
Even when you get back to, well, not even school, when you get back to it, like, so what have you been up to? You'd be like, not much. That's essentially that. You always get to that point where you're itching.
Has it always been a positive that you took from it, or have you, like, personally have flowed in and out of being so annoyed and then, like, taking a positive out of it, or have you always been one outlook on it?
No, do you know what? Yeah, you're right. I think I definitely had some shit days in the first couple of months, which sounds mad. First couple of weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I struggle a lot anyway. In general, like I go through periods of like really needing to remind myself of these practices that I put in place to like keep myself fresh and happy, which I think that it's not easy for anyone to do. So there were definitely times where I was like, I actually, you kind of fall out of love with stuff and you start like loathing yourself and things and like losing direction a lot. And that I definitely went through those kind of cycles, but then like as I got into the rhythm of it and I've been like trying to keep up with like home workouts and stuff, and
Yeah.
not staying in bed for too long. And I mean, it helps when I'm like working shifts and stuff now and again, because like that helps keep my rhythm going. But yeah, it's just all of those little things to help tide me over. But yeah, on the whole, I think positive. But yeah, there's definitely been like moments where it's like, okay, this is shit.
Yeah, it definitely is. Have you always been conscious of how your outlook is, and then, or is it just over lockdown you've looked at it?
I wouldn't say always been conscious, but like, I don't know. I think I haven't had the best relationship with myself, like growing up. And I think it took a lot of introspective and life experience. Like, I didn't really have friends until I went to uni. Like I had like a handful of friends in school, but like I didn't really feel like I was like I fit in with anyone on like a level, like, because when it kind of took me until uni to realize what someone you really connected with felt like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
And not to like discredit any of my friends from school or anything like that, but like but like, you know, I just hated school. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was constantly failing, because like I was putting this overwhelming passion of wanting to do music and being in a band like to the side constantly, like, and trying to focus on finding something reliable and steady to do. But like in hindsight, like that was never going to work for me. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I kind of had that same experience, but the opposite way around, because I was so like, I am doing this. I need to do this. And then my parents were like, well, shouldn't you really not put all your eggs in one basket and do something else? And I was like, nope, fuck you, doing this. And then sometimes it's kind of like, oh, I wish I'd picked some other experiences along the way, but well, it's fine.
Well, I think if I was left unchecked, I'd probably be in the same boat as you. Yeah, my parents are the opposite. They were like, nah, you don't want to do that. You want to do something that pays. Like, so I spent the longest time of my life, I was like, oh, I'm all right at like science and stuff. I want to be a doctor. And that was just setting myself up for life's biggest failures over and over again. So like, yeah, that was bad. And it was funny because like when I got into my first like real job, when I was working for like a fiberglass manufacturing company, and I was working in the office there, and like it was weird because like the job wasn't like gratifying, but it was stable, and there was something like really serene about stability and like having a paycheck and like not having to worry about exams and shit that I just like was constantly struggling with.
Yeah.
And yeah, it like I was doing like band stuff in my spare time around work, and then like Dream State started getting more crazy. So like I've kind of been working part-time more since then, just to kind of keep me from getting into debt. And yeah, so that's life for me now at the moment.
That's one thing I'm curious about with, sorry Matt, I'll let you go. Go on, Matt.
No, I was just saying it's an expensive hobby as well.
Oh
Music.
yeah.
Most expensive hobby. Especially if you like, my biggest mistake is like impulse buying equipment and stuff. Like,
yeah,
a lot of the equipment I've got now, if I'd have spent 10 more minutes researching it, I'd have had something better for less money or like the same price. But
I always do the trick of like looking at some new gear and I'm like, oh, it's shiny and it does all this. And I work it up in my head, so I have to get that. And then like later I'm like, yeah, but this new thing is shiny. Constantly looking at new shit.
Everyone's terrible for that as a creative person. Like, I think I'll go like, I'm going to get this for like weeks, and I'll go, do I need it? And then you kind of like, oh, I don't know. Okay, I'll back away. And then about 2 weeks later, I'm doing the exact same thing again.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
yeah, exactly.
So Dream State, was that starting while you were at uni or before that?
So Dream State started before I joined. So I'd finished uni when I was doing a band with some uni mates, and we were kind of like, it was kind of like doing a hobby kind of thing. Like we were going into the studio and stuff, and just going to like cheap local studios just to kind of go through the experience of doing that kind of stuff and like writing. And we were doing it like 100% just for the love of it and really enjoying it. And we did a battle of the bands, and our band and Dream State were in the final before I joined. And then that was kind of like through that battle of the bands, and like they were looking for a new guitarist, and I kind of ticked a lot of boxes for them. And the rest is kind of history. So I joined. They'd released their first EP before I joined. So what was it called? Consequences. The first EP. I wasn't involved in any of that. So they'd been going for like maybe a year or so before I joined, and then I joined sort of like before White Lies was dropped. So I wasn't in the writing process, but I was there like to see this like thing that I was like, oh yeah, this will be good. This will be a good step up for like getting some good shows. Maybe I'll play like a show in Cardiff and stuff. And like all of a sudden we're playing fucking Reading Festival. It's like,
Yeah, 180 for your expectations there.
Yeah, man.
That's it. So I'm curious, how does it work? Obviously, with you guys being assigned band, like you mentioned that you do part-time jobs and stuff like that. How does that work? Is it like you have a job for a bit, leave that, and then do another, or is it that you have one place that are just really relaxed with how much time you take off from time to time?
Yeah, so it varies. So like where I mentioned before where I was working, I was just trying my best to fit in like full-time hours around the band. And it worked for a while. And like I went and spoke to them and basically explained to them like there's this thing I'm really wanting to do. Like I need more like time off and stuff. Like, is there any way you can make it work? Because otherwise I think I'm not going to be able to carry on working here. And they were like, oh yeah, you know, you can, basically they said that I'd be able to work overtime to like bank my hours. And then like, as I thought about it, I was like, I use all my evenings in the week to like write and stuff and like work on band stuff. So it's like, I was like, yeah.
I love the attitude of, sorry to interrupt you, but you can have more time off by working for us more. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. So, but like I'm quite lucky in that my family, they run a small old people's home. And so I always had like the option of being able to like find odd jobs to do, you know, it's never like quite enough for like a full-time wage or anything. So that's why I was like branching out to like other jobs in the past. But like I've been able to come back and do like kitchen shifts and stuff. So it's a nice way to kind of, well, it's a nice job for starters because it's like, it's really rewarding. Like you basically make breakfast and you give it to a person and you see that they're happy with it. And it's like that instant gratification kind of thing of knowing that you've done a good job and you made someone's day a little bit better. But yeah, it's that kind of thing where like, you know, I'm glad that I've got that as an option. Whereas Alid and Jamwa are working full-time jobs still. And they've basically, I think Jamwa stopped working for a little while to make more time. And now since COVID, he's gone back in to work. And Alid's like doing work from home and stuff. But like Alid's been like absolutely like killing himself with hours, but still like just managing to scrape by with band stuff. Like, but it's tough, like, because essentially like not everyone has that flexibility or the financial security to be able to like go to your boss tell them that you've got something that's going to worry them time wise.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they can turn around and be like, okay, that's fine. And then in a couple of weeks, they're like, no, we got to let you go because this isn't going to work out long term or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a constant struggle, there's never a right answer really. So
No, I don't think
we just do the best we can.
Yeah. What's the best that you can do though? Like at the end of the day, you're pursuing something that you love, you enjoy, you get an enjoyment out of doing. There's nothing wrong with chasing that, absolutely. Especially when your band's dream state.
I mean, it's a lot easier to kind of like to push those decisions when you've got more tangible success, because real people who aren't in the music world and don't understand the music world can't understand how success appears and how it works, because the first thing that 90% of people will ask you is like, are you making money? And it's like, well, no, but it's like, but look at where this could go. And it's like, and it obviously nowadays it's a lot harder to make money from music. So that sort of thought of like, look at this thing that's building really well, look, it's doing so good. And then it's like, 2 years later and you're still like, and I'm making cornflakes. So yeah, it's that kind of vibe.
Cool.
So have you guys been meeting up in lockdown at the moment and practicing writing new stuff, or has it just been like writing from home and that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's been writing from home. So the rules in Wales have been like trailed behind England because...
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot about that. Yeah, you're still...
yeah. So, but no, it's valid because like a lot of people I know have been like going and mixing in each other's gardens and stuff. And well, I say mixing in like a social sense, not like literally like faders and shit. That would be sick though. But we've been kind of working at a distance and like doing the whole chats on Messenger every now and again to like plan things. And me and Alid work on the instrumental side of things, like at home on our own usually, and then we like bring it to everyone, and then we like develop it further from there. So like Dream State has never really been like a jam in the room kind of project. Like that's usually come a little further down the line when we're getting to like refining and things. Which can be a little bit tough because like you can find it harder to like experience that rush of like collaboration when things are like slotting in together there and then, like which is what we generally do when we can see each other. Like we'll sit by each other's computers like with our guitars or whatever, and we'll kind of bounce ideas back and forth in the moment, and we're just kind of getting our heads around like screen sharing and stuff and like writing that way as well. So we did that the other day and that was quite fun. So yeah, we're kind of getting by, and then I think we'll be doing things more together very soon. So yeah.
That kind of makes sense on how you approach writing though, because when I've been listening to your album, the production on it like really stands out, and for me, I take it as not what you'd usually hear from the genre. So like it makes sense that you start writing at your computer and then take it. But I imagine like your challenges are like, we have 3 different melody lines and we have to be able to play this live and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So like there's a lot of benefits which you can get from working straight from a DAW. But like I've always been more of a jam in the room kind of person.
Oh, really?
Because I'm very much like a guitarist at heart, like in terms of like more jam type dynamics. Like I really enjoy that kind of stuff. And so it took me a long time to get my head around like actually arranging drums and stuff. because that was something that I never really did before, because me and the drummer from my old band, we used to like we used to do our bits and just like collaborate on it right there and then. So
Yeah.
it's taken a long time to kind of get that into a place, but I've found that I've got like I've found a lot of like strengths in working with like MIDI and finding cool sounds and like doing interesting things with the actual production. And the sooner you can like start working with those ideas, the sooner it can come to life in the track in the studio. So yeah, it does help a lot being able to like, I don't know, like I'm trying to think of an example, but when it comes to songwriting, you find, for me, I find the bits that I like the most about a song and flesh those out instrumentally. And then generally I'll like break it back down and then go back into the electronics and figure out what I want to do with those, what kind of sounds are working with it. And then I will literally like strip the electronics away from the rest of the track and then work on it as if it's not a rock band.
Oh, okay.
Because I really like a lot of music outside of the rock world as well. So like I find a lot of influence from like alternative R&B and electronic. So like FKA Twigs and like Kalela, a band called Doldrums from Canada that nobody knows, and like loads of random shit like that, which obviously helps a lot with kind of taking influences from other places and bashing them back together, which is where kind of the album shines the most for me, at least.
Yeah, I definitely heard that when I've listened to the album. So it does come through.
Thank you, man. I'm glad you enjoy that part.
I think I enjoy the creativity on it as well. With say, for example, the first track where you've got your ticking noise, and then the synths come in, and everything else comes in. It's like, oh, it's quality. I enjoy that cleverness of mixing stuff and having like, instead of being like, we'll go from A to B, thinking of the transition rather than just thinking as blocks. I think that cleverness works with it so much better.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we really wanted to push for with the album was we kind of wanted it to be a bit like a rave, and Made Up Smile is probably the best reference of that, because you've got that like breakdown at the ending, which like literally, like if you were to strip all the guitars and stuff, like it's like it's got that like keyboard cat feel. But yeah, I think CJ was keen on the idea of this like ticking clock idea, and she like, when she was playing around with stuff in Reaper, like when she was coming around to vocal melodies and stuff, she was like dropping in like little odds and ends, and then when we worked with Dan Weller, then he helped like refine those and like get them meshing really well with the track, and kind of all of that kind of stuff.
Cool. So what was it like working with Dan Weller? Obviously, with him producing like Enter Shikari and all that, like they have the similar sort of vibe, don't they? Where they're very heavily synth based as well. So I mean, he's had a lot of the experience like working with that sort of like genre. So I'm guessing that like benefited you guys like a lot as well.
Yeah, well, that was a massive part of the reason why we wanted to work with him, because like we didn't have the best idea on how to make synth sound good. And so when we did the Recovery EP, we kind of had like little synth lines dotted in here and there, but I don't think they really, I don't think we really managed to get them to the level of what we were comparing like with where we wanted to be. And so when we worked with Dan Weller, it was like we'd gotten a lot better at kind of deciding what sounds go where and how to make them mesh with the song, and to keep that like rock sensibility, but still like having some of these more electronic production elements. And he had that experience and background to be able to just like, you know, take a synth and be like, No, that sounds not quite right, but we'll switch this around and then like twiddle a few bits and then it's there and it's in and it's working well. But for the album, he managed to borrow a load of synths, and I think he had some of his own as well. We just had like 8 or 9 keyboards, like keyboards, like analog synths. And so like I spent hours just in the room, just like twiddling around with these sounds. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but this like when you've got it all there in front of you and like you just, you know, it's almost like coming up with things by mistake and then finding ways to twist them until they work. And I think that when you get it right, those bits can be like really magic and they can really stick out. So yeah, working with Dan was really sick because first of all, he was really great to work with. Like he really understood us all as people. And he was just really nice and calm, but like on the money every time as well. So like, I think we needed that kind of pace. And yeah, so I think we're planning to work with him again for the next stuff. I don't know whether I'm allowed to say that, but I just did.
Got an exclusive.
To be fair, you said "I think" at the beginning, so you can get around it. You're all
so
right.
if Roxanne do a headline, it's going to be like Dream State work with Dan Weller. ... We think.
We think. But yeah, at the moment, there are many reasons for us to work with him again. Yeah, we'll put it that way.
Absolutely.
So was there a lot of experimenting in the studio then with what you've just told us, having about 8 or 9 synths around? Was it always that fun in creating stuff? And were some of them just like straight take the project and let's just get tracking because we know what we want?
I think before we got into the studio, that most of the album instrumentally was like it was arranged thereabouts. So Dan did a little bit of nip tuck on some of the tracks and just like suggested some like, you know, moving parts around, switching the second half and the first half of a chorus, for example, like whether it's on the vocal melodies or just the instrumental side of things. But but yeah, in terms of having fun with the experimental side of things, I think there were fun moments, but like any band that's been in the studio and not had the luxury of lots of money will know that you will literally be spending as much time as physically possible trying to get the perfect sound on stuff. And yeah, it was like we were in that studio until like ridiculous hours in the early morning. Like we were lucky that we were even able to do that because the studio were like, they basically gave Dan the key at one point and just said like, oh, don't go too late, but just make sure you lock up and set the burglar alarm and all that. And it's like, and then cue me doing vocal harmonies in the booth at like 5 a.m.
Nice.
to like, finish things up. So yeah, it was a crazy writing process, but it was or recording process rather. But yeah, it was for the most part where we weren't like killing ourselves trying to get stuff right and you know, figure out the last like odds and ends that didn't get done in time for the studio. Yeah, so the usual stresses. Yeah, it was good.
That's crazy. You must be in zombie mode by that point of like when you're in a recording studio, because I know how we felt like when we've recently just done a single and it must have been about like 11:30 at night or something like that, and we're like, right, we're gonna have to go back because we're in work tomorrow. And then we're like, all right, we'll just crack on with drums and vocals with the rest of the guys. Like, all right, it's just like you go into absolute zombie mode by that point because you spend so much time in just one area and one environment. You just like need to get out now.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things where like we had a few moments where we were like, okay, we all need to sleep. Like we need to leave and come back, and then we'll do this better. And you know, it's an art, and that's one thing that Dan was good as well, was for recognizing when that moment was. Just where it's like, okay, we're calling it there. Like, we've hit our head against this wall a little too much. So yeah, it's definitely that kind of vibe. And but like, we were staying in a little Airbnb down the road, so it was like easy enough to get back and forth. And like, some days, like, it was good to be able to step away and have a bit of a lie-in when the others were working on stuff, or vice versa, like, you know. But you know, for me, I wanted to be in the studio for as much time as physically possible. But sometimes I was just like, yeah, this isn't happening. Yeah, it was good. So.
That's cool.
It makes you think, though, doesn't it? Like, the producer stays there all day with each individual person. Imagine how they feel.
Yeah.
Different type of human.
Yeah, that is, like, his focus is unreal.
Yeah.
I think in order to be a good producer, you just have to have your shit together to the nth degree. Otherwise, it just doesn't work.
Yeah,
So,
you have every minute accounted for.
Yeah. So one tip that I learned from him was like the whole reason why I own this hands-free kit is that he phones his girlfriend like while he's on the phone. That made no sense. He phones his girlfriend while he's like cooking dinner and stuff.
Oh, okay.
All
But
right.
he'll plan phone calls while he's doing other stuff, and that is like game changing, because it can turn like cleaning the bathroom into like having a chat about like menial stuff, like while you're just cleaning away at stuff.
That's quite a good idea.
That's genius. Never thought of
That
it.
yeah, one of the game changers that I learned from him. So yeah, these people have their lives finely tuned. So definitely, yeah, he's definitely an incredibly focused human being.
Wait till the next podcast. I'll be making tea whilst we're on with our next guest.
No, you will not.
You could be doing your taxes right now.
Yeah.
2 minute, boys. I'm just going to go grab the Hoover.
Yeah.
Just have a portable mic. Just like.
Yeah, hoovering's the one that doesn't work.
Yeah.
I've tried it.
From experience.
Yeah. But yeah, in terms of like, there was a lot of coffee drank while we were in that studio. So yeah.
I think that's a given in the studio. That happened with us as well. I mean, we found out. I mean, both of you guys brought the AeroPresses, didn't you? We had two.
Yeah,
AeroPresses
we brought
there.
both.
I had like 3 coffee setups all at once. There was an
And an
espresso machine.
Yeah, an espresso machine as well. It was like, yeah, coffee overload. It was coffee and beer. That's all was drank.
Yeah. There was no water. There was no water inside. It was just beer or coffee.
It's bad.
See, that's the thing where I don't know how bands who like always have like beers on their rider and stuff, and like how they do it, because I can't. Like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, we've done lots of like, when you get to doing like when we got to doing like a couple of weeks of touring in a row, that's when you start to like, you know, you have 2 beers and it doesn't feel like a lot after a show. Like, you know, it's not a big deal. You know, you don't even feel that much of a buzz, and then you sleep like shit because you're on a sofa somewhere anyway, and then you probably snore if you're like me, and you're like probably allergic to gluten or whatever that's in beer, hops, like, I don't know. But so you have a shit night's sleep, and then you wake up groggy, and you like, anytime that, like, I've literally learned that if I drink the next day, my voice will not be as good. And so like, yeah, I remember when we did our first like proper length headline tour, and we were playing with Chapter and Verse.
All right. Yeah.
And you know, they weren't going hard on the beers or anything, but they were just like, you know, like Josh is just casually having a beer before the show and stuff, and then he goes and he just rips it on stage and like totally nails it, because he's a sick vocalist, like, full stop. But yeah, I don't know how you guys do it. I'm jealous. I'm jealous, but yeah.
Do you
I
have
think
any...
musician. Oh, go on. Sorry.
No, it's all right. All I was going to say is, do you have any ridiculous requests on your rider? Have you got like red M&Ms only, or if not, I think you should.
So our rider is a little bit weird, and it's constantly changing because it's like it's like 50% vegan and 50% the opposite of vegan. And so like we've got there's like deli meats and stuff on there, and like loads of, like, which, you know, from when I used to like have meat when we were on our riders and stuff, like I can see where, like, you know, the difference between having deli meats and having like that packet plastic ham, especially when it's the kind of thing that when you get to a venue, like lots of different venues, like it does make a difference. But I think on the whole, like our riders are pretty normal. Like we used to ask for like lemon and honey and stuff, but then we would just never use it. So yeah, our rider's very boring. We switched to a dry rider a while ago so that we could have more budget towards food, and then if any of us wanted beer, and we just buy it ourselves, and that's worked out well on the whole, because like I remember on the Beatles Notion tour, like we just end up having like we'd just be taking stuff back into the van, and you'd like literally everyone's feet would be sat on top of bottles. It was like, okay, this isn't good for anyone, because I should not be thinking it's a good idea like 2 p.m. in a traffic jam to be like, I'll have a beer. And then everyone's like hating you for wanting a toilet stop, like for the third time. But yeah, rider, pretty boring for us, but like
I reckon you need to like put something extravagant in there just to see if they fulfill it.
Yeah, well, I remember a while ago we added boiled eggs, and our manager was like, "You're never gonna get boiled eggs," because he's a promoter himself. And then like the first show we did, it was like boiled eggs. It's like they're here. So like we were like taking pictures.
I was gonna say,
like literally the first place did it. So.
Crazy.
And quite a few other places as well. So,
did you eat the boiled eggs?
Still in the bag.
Yeah, I did. I did eat the boiled eggs.
That was the worst question we've ever asked.
Yeah, good.
I was curious. Yeah. I thought you might have just ordered them and there's sad boiled eggs just sat in the corner.
There's sad boiled eggs.
No,
that's what
we've had. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go on. I'm terrible today.
we've had like a tray of. They were in like a plastic tray, so rather than, you know, the eggs just being boiled and put in a bowl or something, they were in like a supermarket like pre-made like peel open plastic tray.
Yeah.
And oh my god, they just smelt like death.
No,
they've always got like water in the bottom of them. Like, no, not for me.
They are sad boiled eggs.
They are sad boiled eggs.
Oh man. Oh, there's a good section on boiled eggs.
Yeah, that was the boiled egg section. That's always one of the things I think of when it comes to like touring a few decades ago, where they get absolutely smashed on whiskey, beer, and all of that. How did they cope? How did they have that like mechanism to actually like perform? Like I just don't get.
Style.
Yeah, like I just don't understand how the human body could work in that way and still maintain some sort of show.
Yeah,
I have like 4 beers and that's it.
Yeah, it's not even just the beers either though. Like they had drugs. Like they had them. They had them if they wanted them. They were there. They were just like, "Oi, Mike, can you go get some?"
I think of it this way: like Vince Neil sung better then than he does now. So he's like, dude, you should get back on the cocaine and the alcohol, man, because it's much better.
Yeah, superhuman. Like, but you know, there's less evidence from past shows. That's one thing to remember as well. Like, you know, when we play a show now, you can almost guarantee that there's going to be like 3 or 4 videos on Instagram the next day.
Yeah.
And so if you're not like shit hot, then you're in the bin. Like,
Yeah,
I think
true.
the standard for the performance of a live band like is a lot higher these days. So,
Well, as you said, like back in like the 80s and 90s and before that, obviously a lot of bands were making money off the record. So going watching a band was just like, do you know what I mean? That was like extra income from them. But like nowadays, it's everyone relies on the live shows. So as you said, like people might not like you as much on record, but when they see you in person, if you can make that impression on them, then you're sorted because they'll bring people to your show. So yeah, no, 100% get what you mean. You've got to make that impression, and your performance has got to be shit hot. Yeah.
yeah, 100%.
That brings me nicely into what I wanted to mention, Eric, because obviously Oxblood supported you when we did Death Institute with you, which update from the last podcast, it's been saved. Yes.
Oh, sick. That's good to hear.
It's been, it's Gorilla and Death Institute's been bought by a different company now, so they're staying open. So anyway, back to my point. So kind of going back to obviously that you have to have like a good live show. When we supported you guys and you did soundcheck, we sat and watched you guys do soundcheck, and the sound of you guys is fucking unbelievable. And that like live show, like we were like, holy shit, they sound like the actual album. But sometimes you kind of get some other bands like, yeah, it's cool, different vibes, kind of. But then like you guys was like, you played, it was like, oh shit. They mean business. And then we came to the show, the place was packed out. You did the exact same thing before the album came out, and we're like, oh shit. Like, we have to up our game. We need to invest more in equipment.
That means a lot. Yeah, we're always self-conscious about how good we sound live. And there's always that, like, I mean, I know I struggle with it in that, like, you kind of want to lose your shit, but you don't want to make mistakes either. And I feel like I'm constantly like stepping it too far into losing my shit, which is a good thing, I think. But yeah, in terms of live sound and stuff, like we've always like done lots of practice. We've since our headline run for the album tour, so we played Manchester Academy on that run.
Yeah.
Is it Academy 2?
Academy.
Or Academy?
Maybe.
I don't know what
There's a few.
They're all in the same area, aren't they?
Yeah, it's the same building, pretty much.
Same building.
So for that tour, we had... No, actually, no. Sorry, for the headline tour. So the tour that you guys supported us on, we had the Mothership then. So the Mothership is our in-ear rig. And so a massive factor of being able to reliably play a show well is being able to hear yourself, and it's very liberating to not have to like worry about the mix in your wedge when you know you've literally got it in your ears, and we can control it off our phones as well. So that is a massive factor in us staying tight. So yeah, that helps.
Do you play to a click live?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So all of our synths and backing tracks are all on. We need to play to the click to be able to sync up with that. Yeah. For those who aren't aware. And yeah, that's we used to do it on like an iPod or something, and just like a little splitter for the drummer, and so Jammer would be on a click, and then we'd all like play to him.
Right.
And that was fun, but my ears are a lot better off. I get a lot less tinnitus now because like I don't have to be like having my heads in the cymbals and like my ears not being somewhat covered. So, but yeah, all of that kind of tech stuff, it does do a lot to help keep our performance good. But, like I said, it means a lot that you guys sort of appreciated our sound
No,
and what we were trying to achieve. So, yeah.
I remember that we got the email to, like, asking us whether we wanted to have like a support slot for you guys, because I remember we asked about it months before, and I was like, we're not gonna get that. There's no way in hell we're gonna get that. And then randomly one day, our older guitarist who used to be in our band was like messaged me going, "You need to check the emails now, and you need to respond to it." And I was like, right. So I think I was in my car and I pulled over. I looked at it and it was like, "Oh, do you fancy being support for Dream State?" We're like, wow! It was like, we got it, we fucking did it. And we played it. We're like, oh shit! That was like our first. I think it was like our first actual like officially sold out show. We played Deficit Street before, and it was obviously not the turnout that show was. And we got there, we were like, oh. This is there's a lot of pressure here now. I kind of regret wishing to do this. Okay. But no, man, it was sick.
It's cool to hear that like excitement, because me and Jay, when we were going through tour supports, like it was usually us who were kind of listening to as many local bands as we could.
Yeah.
And he's got his ear to the ground a lot with the music scene in general, because he worked, like I said earlier, he works in a venue. So he kind of put you guys my way. And did we have anyone else support on that show other than
I think it was Grief.
Was the 3 or 4 bands?
Grief as well, yeah.
Grief, Oxford, Parting Gift, you guys.
Yeah. So yeah, Grief we'd find out about via Dreambound.
Yeah.
And they were, I mean, that's one of the benefits of having like a good package from the off, is like getting that visibility on platforms like that. But like, you guys were one of the bands where we were like, okay, this band has a bit of a following, they sound really good, they've got a package, like, and that's kind of what we're looking for, because it's balancing up finding a band that you really like, and also a band that's like going to bring people to the show, because essentially, like, as much as I would love to just put dream lineups on every night, like sometimes it doesn't balance the books at the end of the tour, and you're like, but like sometimes, like, I think almost every band that we've had support us has like hit the mark. So like we've been really lucky in that sense, to have amazing homegrown bands like you guys and many others to like represent your cities and things. So yeah, it's we've kind of been lucky on that side of things. We haven't had to, it's never been difficult to find bands to support. Like, people have usually been keen to play shows with us, which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that gives us a little bit of luxury as well, because we can like cherry pick a bit more and try our best to make sure that it's a good night for everyone who's bought a ticket. So, and yeah, that Deaf Institute show is hopefully a good example of.
It was a good example.
Yeah.
To be fair, go on.
I was just going to say that I'm really happy to hear that they've managed to save it, because it was a cool venue. So
no, yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, not going to lie, I think regardless of what support band you're on, or even if you had a support band on or just one, I think people would have still turned up to that show anyway, because the hype for your album, because I think Hand in Hand was just released just before we did those shows. So then I think people have sold out that show regardless. I don't think there would have been any other like whatever support band you had on. I think we made like the small percentage difference, but I think the turnout regardless would have been fucking amazing. So, but yeah, thank you for having us.
No, man, it was our pleasure. So,
go.
With you, like saying you're very determined about being on point every live set you do, and it's the balance in between letting go and just going for it and making sure you don't mess up. Does it get to you seeing like all the videos on social media where, like you said, almost every performance is being recorded?
it has got to me in the past. I think especially vocally, because when you're singing, I think there's that degree of control that can be harder to grasp. Like when you're playing guitar or drums, like you've got a bit more reliability with your accuracy, but like your voice is so much more like organic, I guess. Like it's so much more physical and relies on like, you know, you can eat the wrong thing before a show. Like I remember CJ, we went out for a meal before a show once, and CJ ate something and she like kind of choked on it, and like she found it really difficult to like sing properly that night, just because she chose to eat that like particularly pointy food. I don't know what it was, but it's just like so yeah, when people are filming us, like, because you can see it while you're performing, like you see when someone's got a camera and they're holding it in the same position, and so yeah, it can get to me, but I think that the more I try to focus on just having a fun time, the better I play.
100%.
The less I care about like the odd bum note, because, you know, I think that live shows don't have to be like perfect, but essentially like we want to do everything we can to make sure we put the steps in place for it to be a really great show, by obviously practicing a lot, and, you know, making sure we don't do lots of cocaine before the show, which is not what we do. But yeah, like, I mean, I'm seeing your T-shirt there, and like bands like Idols, you know, there's times where the musicians aren't even near their instruments, but the song is still going on, and it's unbelievably cool and fun and awesome. And so like it's learning to detach from that, like that idea, that perfectionist ideal that like it needs to be perfect, but at the same time it's quite nerve-wracking when you've got a person on a YouTube comment who's watching some, like, you know, some iPhone film from the crowd, like, and saying, "Oh my God, he totally fucked up that bit." So yeah,
there's one place not to look. It's definitely YouTube comment section.
Yeah,
exactly. But you know, at the end of the day, like you just want to make a good impression when you're doing the thing you love, and so it's hard not to detach yourself from that. But like, as long as I feel like, as long as I'm prepared as best as I possibly have, and like I try and get into like a good psyche before we start a show, and be like, right, I'm here. I can't, like, I've had like 2 hours sleep. I feel like shit, but this is going to be the moment. This is going to be a sick show, and I just try and tell myself that. And
is there a routine you have to tell yourself that, or is it just like a minute alone, just making sure your mindset's right?
Yeah, I think it's that minute alone. Like, and sometimes even subconsciously, I find myself like doing it. You know, whether it's while I'm like, you know, making sure my guitar's in one piece, and like putting my in-ear pack on and stuff, and just doing those little setup times, and I'm just like trying to get into that psyche of wanting, like, being ready to perform. And that, you know, that can mean the difference between a show that's like, oh my God, that was the best show of my life, and a show that's like, I don't want to play guitar anymore. I'm done. Kind of thing. Because those shows will happen to every musician, like, where you just feel like you've failed.
That feeling.
But you know, those little rituals can really help, especially to kind of give you that, like, that scope to know that, like, you know, if you can stay positive, then that can help you progress and improve, and even play better in some cases. Because I've had shows in the past where my hands are shaking so much that, like, my picking hand's just like not doing what I want it to do, and it's like, and it's infectious as well. As soon as you make one mistake, it's like a snowball effect, and it can really throw you. So yeah, definitely definitely good to have those moments where you like reassure yourself. I know a lot of people are like very confident people, and they like naturally have that ethos with them all the time. But like, I know that I kind of have to train myself sometimes, which is kind of a good thing for a life skill in general, because I think that it's not just on the stage where you need to have a positive outset. It's also like in your day-to-day life, and you know, when you're getting up in the morning, like it's the thing that, you know,
For times
makes you
like
hit.
this, it's, you know, definitely needed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm kind of like the same when it comes to live shows. Like I'll have one thing that'll go wrong, and then it's part two, or I've left the pedal on the wrong setting.
Yeah, it's usually your pedal with you, mate.
Oh man, it's me and pedal dancing. that's what it is. Like I've left my whammy on, and I've realised I've been left it on for like 4 songs and not clicked on because I can't hear myself. It's like all the clean tones have been like high pitched on an octave for like half the set. I'm like,
And with me, it's fucking guitar straps for some reason every time. And I've been using the DiMaggio ones as well. It's supposed to be fucking good, and it snapped on me halfway through a set. I was like, "Are you fucking serious?"
And do you know? You've just reminded me, like in terms of technical difficulties, there's a show that'll always stick with me is when we supported Amity in London in the Electric Ballroom, and I literally had the best show of my life that like up to that point on that night, and I was loving it. I was like, oh yeah, that was such a sick show. And then I found out that my guitar wasn't coming through the front of the house for the whole show. And I was like,
way.
well, I did everything right. And it was just like, and it was London as well. So it's like, you know, there's always a bit of extra stress with London because like that's where a lot of the industry are at and coming to watch you. But like, I mean, the crowd was insane that night. There was the biggest wall of death to the point where I was concerned for people's safety. But yeah, like, it's that kind of thing where if you don't have a positive outset, then that kind of thing can crush you. And so I was just like, do you know what? I had a fun time. The crowd was sick. I can just leave it there. But like, I was tragic.
Oh my God.
oh,
That is brutal.
Yeah. So yeah, and it was literally, I'm going to go further into this. Well, actually, and the thing is like, it wasn't as if like it was on our end either. It was like because we were running DI, but we had cabs on stage. I think they left out a mic from the last band, and I like moved out of the way because I was like, well, that's not necessary. But I don't know, just didn't get faded up so that it was showing the lights. Maybe it was on a bust fader that didn't have lights, or something like that.
Like you say, at least you've got a positive attitude to be like, it was still good.
Yeah, it was a fun show.
It was
that's so
me.
bad. I think I'd have died inside if that was me.
Right, so we might as well move on to one of our segments. We have a reoccurring segment in every podcast we do, and we ask you, what is your favourite scary movie?
If any.
If any. Yeah.
If any.
If you don't like horror movies, then that's fine. But if you've ever watched one,
do you know what? I'm glad you said if any, because I've watched a couple of good horror movies over the years, but I wouldn't say it's like the kind of vibe that I've really pursued a lot of. Like, I remember one of the earlier films I watched was like The Shining, when it was on. Like, I used to love watching Film 4, the like 9 p.m. movie. So like after school, I'd watch the 9 p.m. movie all the time, and you just never really knew what you were going to get, but the curation for it was really good. So like, even if it was a really old film, you'd usually come across something sick. So yeah, in terms of scary films, like, you know, in that kind of vein, like it's kind of what you consider a scary film to be. Because I was kind of thinking like one of the films that like I literally like I really want to watch it again, but at the same time I really don't, because it like really fucked with me the first time, and it's Requiem for a Dream.
Oh,
Right.
I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but it's basically about drug addiction, but the way it's filmed is like really intense. So I definitely encourage you to watch it. And that it's that kind of almost psychological horror where it's like you can't get an image out of your head sometimes.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, I would kind of, I'd struggle to pick a film, but I remember like when I was younger, I used to love Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Oh my God, we was going on about it the last podcast, man.
Yeah.
we put a clip on from last time. Do you know the creepy barber guy? What does he say now?
It says naughty.
Oh,
naughty.
It's disgusting.
I can't believe he spoke about it on the last one. That's mad.
It was after the podcast. We were just chatting.
Yeah, it
was.
Yeah.
Oh,
We ended up just watching tons of clips of Courage the Cowardly Dog on YouTube.
Yeah, the one that really screwed with me was the Return the Slab one.
Oh, fuck me. That is the worst, innit?
Literal nightmares. Like I vividly remember having like more than one night of just waking up like in a cold sweat, like just.
It's that thing. It's like waving around. Return the slab.
Yeah.
It's just waving around outside. It's fucking daft when you think back at it, but when you watch it, you're like, that's pretty creepy for when you. It's scary.
But they say one of the things that really like triggered people's responses to it was the fact that like they used more than one style of animation in the same shot. So like, when I read online about it, like they were saying that like everyone was gravitating to the scariest moments, the ones that like were the most nightmare inducing. Yeah. And they were always the ones where there was like 3D rendering like mixed in with the graphic style. And so it literally made your mind think that doesn't belong there.
Yeah.
And that's what like caused the subconscious to like screw you up 6 hours later when you're trying to go to bed.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. So in terms of scary films, like I couldn't think of one that I was like,
that's fine.
That is going up on my list. But
like every time we bring this up, sometimes we'll forget to tell whoever's coming on. By the way, we have this returning segment. So when we tell them, they're like, "Oh God, I don't like horror at all." No question.
But I quite like I love the concept of like horror and stuff, and a lot of like old school horror, like the kind of H.P. Lovecraft stuff. Like I remember when Bloodborne was coming out, and there was loads of this like cool lore, and someone was like talking about it being like Lovecraftian horrors and all that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just really cool to like read into this old school like horror novel, and kind of see the way that they used, because you know that a lot of the concepts and like sometimes I think the idea is scarier than the monster, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And,
it's what you don't see almost.
Yeah. And then like on a more modern level, like I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's like I found it on Reddit, and it's called the SCP Foundation.
Oh no.
And it's basically like this. It's this website which has, it's all user-made content, but it's basically all centered around this like core theme of like a scientific research center that like captures and studies supernatural phenomena. And so there's like loads of links to different like stories, and some of them are just really short. But like they're all like different characters and like different things. So like one of them is like this staircase that never ends. So it's just this like staircase in a school or something, and it just never ends, and it just gets darker and darker. And they basically like write it in the way that they're logging like research experiments to like venture down into this staircase and see what's there. And yeah, it's really sick. So like, I mean, it's got that like 90s internet feel to it.
Yeah.
Is it kind of like creepypasta vibes, like when they was doing the whole Slender Man like story and that?
Yeah, like that kind of vibe. But it's really varied. Like there's some stuff that's like just really funny on there as well. Like but it's the way that like all the people go to a lot of lengths to like create
make it real.
the lore and make it like a little
I'll be looking
deeper,
at this.
because you've got this overarching idea of there being a foundation that researches into them. And so like they like link different like people will link between each other's like write-ups, and it's all presented as if it's like you're looking at like a government website or something.
Oh my god.
So it's really cool. I definitely recommend it if you want to.
I
Like,
will be
kill
looking
some
at
time. But yeah, the SCP Foundation it's called. So yeah, and that's really me in horror. Like I've always like struggled with. I've not like struggled with gore, because I remember like people explaining when I was younger the Saw movie to me, and I remember just being really like, I was like, oh, I don't want to watch that. And then like I ended up watching like a segment of it, and I was like, oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the idea of it was worse than actually watching the physical creation of it by the studio. And obviously, like, you know, not to say that they were doing a bad job or anything, but like it didn't freak me out as much as I freaked myself out. If that makes sense.
I think for me, like I got them sort of vibes when I was watching Hostel. I don't know if you've like come across that yourself.
Yeah, that's one of the films where I was like, I don't want to watch that.
Yeah,
because like
I tell you don't.
Like the idea again is more creepy, like creepy and scary than the actual film itself. Because you're like, fuck man, imagine if there was like an organization that like captured people and then sold them off to be killed. Like it's you know what I mean? It's the idea of that could actually exist. Like that could possibly happen in this world. You don't know, like, but it could happen. And it's and it also made me never want to go backpacking around Europe as well.
Well, we had that almost experience when we was in Germany, where we stayed in that actual hostel, like the last day we was in Germany, and it was like the sketchiest room I've ever seen in my entire life. Like it just looked like someone had been murdered. They'd done a half-assed job at cleaning the room, and then like
shells hanging
actually take
off
that room again afterwards.
Yeah, honest. Oh fucking hell! I thought we were gonna get kidnapped that night.
Yeah,
I don't think Germany's quite Eastern Europe though.
No.
You're not a real band if you haven't stayed in the sketchiest place imaginable. We stayed somewhere near you guys, actually, near Manchester area, and it was kind of northeast of Manchester.
Was you in Wigan by any chance? I was about to say that.
The thing is, I've tried to find where it was, and it's almost as if it never existed in the first place. But it was this place, right? And we were a bit worried about leaving the van there overnight to begin with, because it was back in the day where like we used to just hire a van, and we had one it was more like a minibus than it was a van, and it had like windows going all around.
Yeah.
And so we had all our gear in the back, and we were like, we're literally gonna have to cart this all inside the hotel. And so we got there, and like the guy opens the door, and his eyes are literally like red. And he is like clearly spaced out, and we're like, okay, that's fine, like as long as he can let us in and he can do his job, like we don't really care, he's a night staff, whatever. And so we started loading the gear in, and they've got the on the door, like always a bad sign when they have like a buzzer to open the door like permanently, like, and it doesn't have like a timer on it or anything, just like no like slow closing door. It's just like as soon as it's shut, like you have to press the buzzer in and they have to let you in again, almost like it's some kind of I don't know, like a bank or something. And so when a hotel is kind of exercising that level of security, you wonder about where it is and like, what it's about. But yeah, we went in and like literally it was like we were really late because it was after playing a show. In fact, it could have been after the Star and Garter show that we played way back when. And that was the first time Parting Gift supported us, actually, I think. On the chapter, the tour chapter and verse were with us on. But anyway. And yeah, it was just like the jankiest corridor. Like we got up to one of the rooms and there was a guy like standing outside the door, just like loitering, which shouldn't be a bad thing, but at like 3 a.m. when he's like looking at you all, like, who are you? What are you doing here? Kind of thing. Like, and that, like, he was obviously a guest of the hotel. But yeah, we got into the first room, stank of piss and cigarettes, which is not the kind of environment you want to sleep in, generally speaking. And it was like there was like a communal toilet, and it was just gross. Like, it was just like we slept in our sleeping bags on top of the beds because it was just hideous. And there was just loads of like creepy characters around, and so yeah, that was a experience. And the fact that we carried all of our gear like upstairs because we didn't want to leave it in the van, that was a nightmare as well. And then we read the TripAdvisor reviews afterwards, and they were like, I'd rather have slept in the piss-soaked alleyway outside than in that hotel again. It was like, yeah, I feel you. I get that.
I now relate to that comment.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, we're not like a soft band either. Like, we've slept in all sorts of places, but that place was... It was called like the Ass Hat Hotel or something like that. Not the one. Not the one. I don't even know how we got onto this. Oh, Hostel.
Hostel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely could have been killed there.
Bet it was Wigan.
Yeah, probably around where we live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that brings us to our next recurring question that we have on the podcast, and that is, what is your pet peeve? So the rule is essentially that you pick a topic that absolutely pisses you off to fuck, and we discuss it.
Okay. I don't know whether this is a boring one, but when you're talking in like a group chat and you have a person who will send 6 messages instead of 1.
Yes. Yes.
I'm guilty for that sometimes.
Yeah.
And so your phone is just like,
Yes.
And like, especially because of like drop down notifications and stuff, because it's like you're literally just like, I'll read it in a minute, I just want to finish this video or something. And it's like, the culprit in our band knows who they are. And is improving, but it does my nut in. Like, it's just write in one thing. Like, you can add something afterwards, but just like, it's almost like they're super excited to send the message so that they send it too soon. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, but this. I don't know this.
Yeah, that's definitely
me. My missus is terrible for that. You just get, like, if I'm out wherever, or you have the phone on the table and you're doing something, all you hear is, and then you look at like, what do you want that's so urgent? And it is always the most minimal thing that the message is about.
Yeah. And it's especially because, like, with group chats and stuff, there's usually a purpose for it. And it's like, it can clog up chats and stuff. And like, I don't know. It's, like I said, it's the most boring thing to have as a pet peeve. But like, I like to think I'm quite a tolerant person. But like, yeah, that.
I think it's a valid one. It is a valid
one.
I get it.
It's another new one.
I think we've had that.
Have we?
Oh, have you actually had it?
I think someone has said that before. I vividly remember this conversation, but I could never tell you who.
I was trying to think of other pet peeves though, and I was just like, they're not petty enough. Like, it has to be something that's like menial, but it literally makes your blood boil.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's about as good as I can do. Really.
I think that's the only reason it's a recurring segment on this, is we all just get pissed off at similar things.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I've got so many drive-in pet peeves, like people tailgating or like especially like when the traffic is kind of slow, and it's like you're literally wasting petrol. Just drive a bit slower. Like leave a bit of space in front of you. You're only going as fast as the cars in front of you. So
yeah, the driving ones. Yeah, I get that.
But yeah, that is just a peeve. It's not a pet peeve, is it? Yeah.
I'd say it's valid though.
I think it's valid.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, I think the more valid a pet peeve is, the less interesting it is. Maybe sometimes.
Yeah, it's got to be controversial as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I suppose.
Even better if it's controversial.
Yeah.
Like, what controversial thing you think of that's a pet peeve?
Well, he means like controversial to like individual people. So like, I send multiple messages all the time, so I'm offended by this conversation.
And the thing is, I'm glad you're offended.
Yeah, thanks.
That's but it's my pet peeve, so it's okay. It's okay. It's not like a real one. Sorry, I really hope I didn't offend you.
Triggered.
Sick. That was good. So when you meant to be on tour a couple of months back with I Prevail?
Yeah, we were. So we did the first kind of half of it roughly.
Okay.
And then our last show was in Frankfurt, which was when we got the like, you should probably head home now message. No. And we kind of knew that a few of the shows had been cancelled because like Switzerland was the first one to go, and then there were like rumors about certain ones, and then 4 dropped out in one day, so 4 different cities cancelled. And yeah, from there it went from being like one of the best and smoothest tours where we were all like having a really great time, came to an end.
Yeah, and they've been rescheduled now, hasn't it?
Yeah, so for the second time it's been rescheduled for 2021.
Okay.
And so it starts towards the end of April. The first time it got rescheduled, we weren't going to be heading back to Europe. We were just going to be doing the UK dates. But this time around, we're doing Europe and UK. But which sucks is we weren't able to do the Dublin one because we already confirmed a festival during that tour. For the we confirmed the reschedule of the festival, and then
that.
So yeah, we're doing Europe and UK minus Dublin, sadly, which would have been the first time we went to Ireland, which sucks. And we had a festival that we were meant to be playing, Sunstroke Festival, and obviously that got cancelled as well. So Ireland is still the place that I've yet to cross off my map, and I really want to, because I've been before, but like I haven't been and like gone like a tourist. I've been to like visit family and stuff. So it'd be nice to kind of, because it's always difficult on tour to like get time to like look around places properly, but I'm always like trying to, even if it's just a half-hour walk or something before a show, I'm always like trying to experience something about where I am. So yeah, I Prevail. Very kind of them to ask us back.
I
think it's probably a good sign that we didn't like piss them off. So yeah,
cool.
It's chilling.
I think that probably. Go on, sorry. Go.
I was just going to say, so that's end of April through to May. A lot of the dates are sold out again because the tickets are just carried over. But
which
there's
is nice to see.
Yeah, I mean,
like given what's going on, that people are still buying tickets is great.
Yeah, exactly. So, and they've got a massive fan base. Like they're killing it right now. So yeah, it'll be really good to jump on that tour. Who knows where we'll be at as a band release wise? I don't know what we'll be doing then, but yeah, it should be really cool. Like I think, I'm really hoping that it's not the first live show that we do from now. Like, but at the moment, it's the only one we got scheduled in so far. Well, the next one coming up.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
just-
sure you've got to be positive about it, and I'm sure you'll be able to get something in between. I hope.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just itching to play shows.
Yeah. So do you prefer playing live than writing or in the studio?
I think so. I think the playing live is where the song comes to life. Like, I think that the studio kind of captures the essence of it, but live is really where like the essence and meaning of things like really connects with people. Because like, you know, there's a lot on a lyrical level that people can take from listening to music, and like a mood level from the instrumentals. But I think when you're playing live and you're literally like making eye contact with people and like it's way more expressive and way more interactive. Like
You can
there's
capture
more,
that emotion like in a live scene. Then
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And like essentially going to watch a live show when like PA is like, you know, you can feel the kick in your chest,
yeah,
and it's like it's a completely different vibe. So I, you know, looping back to the Idols example, because it's just like staring at me on the t-shirt. But like, you know, funnily enough, like I saw them, me and my friend traveled to Manchester to watch them play their show in Gorilla.
oh, I was at that show as well.
Yeah, so it was insane. And you know, they released the album by that show, do you know?
Yeah, it hadn't been out that long. I don't think.
Yeah.
Joy, is it? I think Joy had been out.
Yeah, Joy.
Yeah.
No,
So-
wait.
It
Joy
was
hadn't
out.
been out. No, it wasn't. No. So they it was just before they released it because they played Danny Nedelko live and no one had heard it yet. That was the first time.
Yeah,
There we go.
Yeah.
Then.
because we'd heard that song before because we'd seen them at a different show.
Yeah.
Well, we'd seen them like, well, we saw them loads. Like they were probably the band that I saw the most.
Yeah.
But, like full stop. Yeah, because I remember them playing Alcohol and they didn't release that on the album, which was strange because they'd been playing that for the longest time. And like Rottweiler, which eventually made it on the album. But
Yeah.
yeah, what I was trying to say is that live experience, like the album is obviously going to be raucous and thought-provoking and engaging. So like that's what a good album is, but it's when you play a live show that's when energy just like erupts in a room.
Yeah.
When you can get a whole room of people to lose their shit, that is like magic. That is something that I think that everyone should experience.
Yeah.
Being in a good mosh pit, like that is one of my favorite things. And yeah, like that's
Fair enough, yeah.
so yeah, I think live shows I enjoy more than the studio, but the studio is something where it's like, you know, you put so much work and effort and thought into preparing for the studio, and when you get there, you I guess it's similar to a live show. I was going to say that it was a bit different, but like with a live show, essentially you've already done what you've done before, like so you've already performed the songs on the stage, but where that same set list can play differently on different nights. You know, we mix up songs, but on the whole, like it's the bulk of the songs will be similar every night.
Yeah.
And it's where the differences between those shows, where you start to see like you start to play off the crowd's energy and like interacting with people, or like if the crowd is like if you can go in. When we were starting out as a band and there was and we weren't playing the shows with like barriers and stuff, mainly when we were on support tours, but like recently our headline shows have been a little bit like that, which is really cool. But like I remember I used to always like run out into the crowd and like play literally in front of people and like watch their reaction as I'm like dicking about in the crowd. And that, again, that's magic. Like, there is such a unique experience to be had by going to a live show. And I think it's so underappreciated on the governmental level.
Yeah.
They're just squares. And
Yes.
and, you know, so with things like the Music Venue Trust, like fighting to save venues and stuff over this period, I think it's a really crucial time to keep that live music scene alive, because so many people don't understand it and haven't experienced it and don't know what it means to people. And I think that's why it's really important to be vocal on things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, live shows. Seal of approval. Which is an easy seal to give, let's be real.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
live shows are sick. Like, let's do more when we
when
can.
it's possible.
When we can.
Yeah.
Because like, it's funny, my parents are going to like this drive-in concert. Oh no, they were, but it got cancelled.
A load of them got cancelled, didn't they?
I think they all did.
Yeah.
Because it's traveling from one city to another.
Yeah.
So,
but
like, cinemas can stay open, but gigs can't. Apparently.
Yeah, the whole idea of driving into a field and watching a band play, like, it's better than nothing, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But there's only so many bands that are going to feasibly make that happen as well. And I think that some of the biggest victims of this crisis will be those fresh blood bands that are, you know, that, you know, have invested enough to a point to get the ball rolling, but don't have the means to get through a massive drought. Which we're experiencing now. Like, I think we've got a really good chance of making it through to the other side because we've got a good foundation to start off with. But there are so many bands who've like released debut albums like right before the pandemic, and I just feel so sorry for those people who've just like thrown themselves into it and they can't even tour it to promote the album. And it's shit, but you know, we've got to do what we can to be like proactive and positive and doing things like this to, you know, not just keep people interested, but like to kind of bring that soul of live music back into the forefront and like remind people that heart is still there, and that it's something to look forward to like afterwards. I think next year's festival season is going to be off the chain.
Prime.
It's going to be so good. Like, I was because we were meant to be playing Trees, and that's one of my favorite festivals, and I've been to it for the last 5 years. So when it came around this year and I wasn't there and I was meant to be there, everything was in place for me to be there, and it's like, I'm not there. It's like that like panic starts to set in, where it's like, will the live music scene ever come back? And we just have to keep doing things in the meantime, but like make it work. Which is, you know, it's that, like I was saying at the beginning of the chat, it's like that whole idea of adapting. So yeah, we just got to do that. Stay happy.
I'm really looking forward to when it comes to shows being back, and hopefully people actually begin to pay a fucking interest in going into local shows again for the smaller bands, and we actually get crowds again, and people want to go watch bands again because they've actually missed it, and they'll get in, they'll get drinks, and it'll be really fun again. And get all these shite promoters fucking pay to play.
Don't get me started on that. But yeah, I think that people are going to have a real thirst for live music at the end of this, which is one of the silver
Yeah.
linings, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
it's one of the things to look forward to. And as well, like, so many bands are going to be releasing like music that they've written over the quarantine period. I'm hoping that it's not all going to be like COVID based. Like,
Yeah, no, I hope not.
I think lyrically, I'm going to be like trying to steer CJ away from like those like tropes of
Yeah,
yeah.
I bet you see loads of bands like steering into it though.
Mm.
But I was gonna ask, have you been writing over, this hell of the 4 months?
Yeah, we've been writing. We're still taking over. So we've got like a whole bunch of demos on the go. And at the moment, we're kind of in that phase where we're like, what do we do for the next release? Like, how do we, like, I feel like on Primrose Path, we had this like idea that we wanted to do whatever felt good. And I think that really came to the forefront in that there's a lot of variety on the album. And I'm really happy with the way that despite the variety, it's connected. It's like one piece, and it feels like one piece. It doesn't feel like a mixtape or something. And so the next steps now, it's like trying to figure out how we want to portray an identity and things like that. But like at the same time, we're a very like organically working band. Like, I don't like, we value spontaneity and like that like spark, but we're trying to like get a bit more like predetermined and like figuring things out and planning things and like finding ways to have concepts like reemerge and refresh and be multifaceted. And so we're in that kind of process now where I've just succumbed to like, I'm just writing whatever I feel like. I don't care if it goes in the bin, because we've got time on our side. So like, I'm just gonna write whatever feels good. And honestly, that's like, for me, that's one of the best ways for me to keep that inspiration up, is just to play what makes me happy. And worry about the rest afterwards. And so we're in that state where we're working on demos, and we'll kind of start to find these common threads, and then we can go back through and start to reevaluate demos and like bring in those concepts and those recurring themes and things, and start to like weave them into the bare bones of the demo, if that makes sense. So yeah, we're in that kind of writing stage. We don't know what we want to be. We don't want to be like, we just want to have fun.
That's important. Yeah. Are you feeling?
And also, sorry.
No, go on.
I was going to say, and also like be able to survive doing it as well.
Well, yeah, of course.
But,
which brings me on to what I was going to ask. Like, do you feel pressure of what you're writing now compared to the previous album? Like, I know you've released stuff before that, but do you feel that added pressure?
Yeah, there's definitely a huge amount of pressure now. I think we felt this pressure going from Recovery to the album because, I mean, it's very rare that a single off a band's EP like blows up like White Lies did. And so we had this like, we were insanely lucky to have that foundation behind us of an EP, and people were like really receptive to it as a whole. And so we've been through this cycle before when it came up to doing Primrose Path, because we had all these like this anxiety of how do we top that? How do we keep people interested? But how do we also like stay true to ourselves? And so I think that I think on the whole we've been good at like pushing that to the side. Like, let's not care about what's going to get us the most streams or the most views on a video. Let's not care about let's not care about that, and let's just care about writing good music that we like. And essentially, when it comes to like the final phases of songs, like I think that we've got a lot of like pop sensibilities in our melody writing, where CJ's writing vocal melodies particularly, like, and I think that that helps to kind of naturally approach those kind of benefits in sound, because when you look at pop these days, like there's a lot of diversity, and there's a lot of really interesting stuff in pop, whereas I think that like in the 90s and early 2000s, like a lot of pop was very like single lane, like drip fed, manufactured.
Yeah.
Whereas there are loads of like cool, independent, like weird artists making top 10 hits. There's still tons of shit as well, but like essentially, I think that, you know, if you're not like, I feel like that kind of gives us a natural advantage in writing something that's like industry friendly, and not just like passion project stuff where we're, you know, doing exactly what we want for the fuck of it.
Yeah.
So we're like, we kind of naturally fall into that balance because that pop sensibility already exists. So yeah, like the pressure, it definitely is there. Like but again, that's part of the reason why I'm just writing whatever makes me happy, because the more I think about trying to doctor what I'm writing and like amend it and tweak it for the consumption of the audience, like the more I'm taken away from that creative spark that started the idea in the first place. So yeah, but it's difficult because like I'll hear things and I'll just be like, is that catchy enough? Like, I don't know. But at the same time, like I don't think that catchy always equals good. Like you can get the worst song stuck in your head.
Yeah.
So it's tough. Like writing music is hard, and
Yeah.
but yeah.
But it's good that you seem such a positive person to. I don't know if it's like a Welsh gene. The past few people we spoke to, Ash from Holding Absence, way too positive. When we spoke to Sean, way too positive and happy. What's the secret? Is it just living over there?
I think it is.
You
Yeah, it feels like it.
But like I think that for rock bands from Wales, like people don't get rock music. Like people get rugby, they get nights out, they get football. I didn't get any of that as a kid. So like I had to adapt to my own passions, and that came at a big cost a lot of my life because I didn't really fit in as much. And I mean, you could say the same thing about England. I have no idea what it's like over the bridge. But yeah, I think partially it's that, like you literally have to overcome adversity to be into something like rock music in Wales, I feel. Like even down to the people that you mix with. I remember in work, I just didn't have like talking points with people. And so I felt antisocial a lot of the time because like I wasn't talking about who's recently managing Westfield's United manager land football. Sorry to anyone who likes football. I do appreciate the sport.
Here to us.
Yeah, none of us watch football.
Yeah, no.
Or probably any sports.
But you know what I mean? Like you kind of have to be able to go against the grain a little bit. And I think that kind of challenge, like, you know, when they say that, oh, it'll be good for you to do that, like it'll be a good character building. That's what I was looking for. Like it's that kind of vibe. But I think one thing that I can't talk highly enough about is that in Wales, there's been a lot of focus on like positive mental health. And I think like Holding Absence are massive advocates of that. So no surprise to me that you've had a good experience and a positive experience with him. And you know, things like Heads Above the Waves being the kind of charity that like connects with people and makes people feel welcome and makes I think that it kind of goes hand in hand in this, like, because we're kind of in like we're still in the potentially early phases of the social media generation where we like have these topics which are more fed to us. And I think I wouldn't have heard of Heads Above the Waves if it wasn't through like their marketing strategies and things. So it's interesting that something like that with a good message can make it to me via social media, whereas I wouldn't have probably heard of it before.
Yeah. I was literally saying on the last podcast that whenever I see Heads Above the Waves on my feed, whatever that is, it's so infectious and positive. You do feel like, oh, sick, yeah. Things are going to be fine.
But I think there's a lot to be said for like a motto and things and like a motivational phrase. And those are really great. But essentially, the thing that makes the biggest difference is like learning life skills to understand yourself. Like breaking stigma. So like knowing when it's okay to go and get counseling, because counseling is totally fine and is a really great experience if you find a counselor that you really connect with. And it's something that I've been considering for a long time, because I think there are some things in life that are so personal to you that like you may never be able to share those things with other people. And it's kind of that ethos of being able to work against that stigma that kind of breeds this perception that people in Wales, in the rock music scene particularly, have a positive mental attitude. Yeah, me. And I think it goes hand in hand with that kind of that scene of breaking the stigma of mental health. People have learnt ways to make themselves happy, or to help themselves cope with when they're not feeling right, which is something that I think that is criminally underrepresented, or it has been in the past. It's coming more and more now in mainstream media. I think that they're legitimizing mental health. And I think that that's something that's invaluable. And the more you learn about coping techniques and learning more about yourself and how to connect those dots, the more you can present yourself as happy. Because like you see me as someone who, like you've just said that you kind of get a positive vibe from me, which I'm really happy about, because that's really what I want you to see. But like, what I don't want you to see is when I'm feeling like anxious, or I'm not feeling myself, or I'm feeling like I'm being awkward on a podcast like this or something, because that happens. And that's not something that I'm ashamed about. Like I feel like I get days where I feel completely overwhelmed by stuff, and I can't operate properly.
Yeah.
Like I can't latch on to my aspirations. Like I lose track of things. But like, literally while I was on this conversation, I've got an app where I log my mood every day, and a little notification came down to do it. And I've only been doing that for like 3 weeks or something, but I found that it's really helpful, because you can like look back and see what the correlations are between like feeling happy and things that don't make you feel happy. And when you get that perspective of understanding yourself on that higher level, like you start to be able to direct yourself out of those ruts more often. And so that's something that I like. I like to think that I'm a much stronger person now than I was before. And like I was saying earlier about this lockdown being a good thing for me in a lot of ways, was that I had the chance to really get things to where I felt like I wanted them to be.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes we can put so much pressure on ourselves to be okay. And, it's more about finding ways to make not okay better. If that makes sense.
No, yeah, it definitely does.
No, absolutely.
I suppose
Sorry, carry on. I'm pretty much done. I'm done.
I was just going to say the good thing about that app is like it's forcing you to reflect on, you know, how you're feeling, which I think a lot of people, I'm very guilty of it, just shove it to a side and don't think about it.
Yeah.
Don't just forget about it. You'll be fine. Which is obviously the wrong approach to it. So when we do our fake goodbye, I want to know what that app is.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to ask you what app it is, because I'm pretty sure I've seen that before as well.
Yeah. Well, there's loads of things like that out there, but I think the key is like it stems from this concept of like journaling being a really good thing to do, especially when you're feeling bad, because it helps with overthinking, because you think about something more than once when it's contained within your head, whereas when you write it down, you start to be like, no, I've done that bit, like what's the next thing I'm worried about? And then it's things like that. And the thing is, people are learning to understand those mechanisms better through things like Heads Above the Waves. And so, you know, that it could be a completely anecdotal correlation that I'm making there between Welsh happiness and the fact that there are mental health charities like that are cool based in Cardiff, like but also I think a lot of people, like, it's infectious because a lot of people will do these they'll do like charity challenges or things in support of mental health charities, and so that can like start to do more and more to break the stigma, because you see like your friend who, you know, you didn't really realize was concerned with mental health, because I don't want to say like someone struggle, well, I don't want to assume that someone struggles with their mental health, even though that's totally fine and it doesn't change the way that I perceive that person. But essentially, when you see someone who you perceive as a really happy person doing something for a mental health charity, even if it's not for their own, because they have an own invested interest in mental health charities and the message that they spread, like that can make you think, well, it's normal, and therefore I'm normal. And so there's a lot of those kind of powerful messages that can be taken from, you know, from cool initiatives like that.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of thing that makes me proud to be Welsh.
So I don't have to be Welsh, but it helps
No, you don't.
to sum up my question.
But you know, it like I said, it's infectious. Like
it is.
It spreads, and you know, there may have been. Well, I'm sure there are many mental health initiatives that have like around the country, but it's ways of highlighting and like sharing those and using social networks for good rather than for vanity or fear mongering. That's a big fat topic that I think I just want to like
definitely
to the side.
I think that wraps it all up.
Man.
That brings it to a nice positive conclusion.
Yeah, end it on the Welsh happiness.
Yeah.
Hey.
Be Welsh. If you take anything back, it's be Welsh.
Be Welsh.
We'll do a fake goodbye, but stay on after we say goodbye. So thank you for taking the time to chat with us. Really appreciate it. Is there anything else we need to cover before we do say goodbye?
Anything you want to plug? Any links?
We released our music video for Are You Ready to Live, which is a fan compilation video.
Cool.
Which is really sick. People like our band enough to send a clip of them doing something cool to it. And literally that made me feel so happy. So if you're looking for something to make you feel happier on a sad day, then please check it out.
Happy days. I'm going to be watching that after this.
RHYS WILCOX, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, buddy.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that was episode 37 of An Earful Podcast with RHYS WILCOX of Dream State.
And if you haven't already, you can check out Dream State's debut album, on wherever you listen to music, purchase music, buy massive LPs, whatever else. Just go and check it out. They've just recently released the new music video for Are You Ready to Live, as Reese mentioned on the podcast. Make sure you go and check it out, or go watch them on a future date.
Definitely. And if you skip the intro, I'm going to remind you in the outro, we have 36 other episodes to go listen to. You can get them on Acast. You can even watch them on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. So go have a listen to them if you can understand what we say. Other than that, enjoy.
See you next time.